title that we have here is very dramatic. This is the marketing title. I had a much more boring title that I wanted to give it. The title I wanted to give it was use cases you can actually do today that are real and plausible. So that is what you're actually going to get here. They will be high impact because you can't have any impact if you can't actually build the use case, as we'll show you momentarily. So these are high impact in the sense that doing them is possible, and therefore you will have an impact. A lot of the other ones that you might hear described as high impact are literally impossible right now. So I would consider them to be zero impact. In terms of what you'll actually need in order to achieve any of this, and again, because we want to make this actually possible, very minimal. Do you need a complex technical setup? You do not if you have Dataiku, but you do if you don't have Dataiku. Do you need specialized data science skills? If you don't have Dataiku, you do indeed need specialized data science skills, but not with Dataiku. What do you absolutely need? You absolutely need to have approved LLM access. Now, Dataiku will make this easier, more palatable for your IT and technology people, but you do actually have to have an authorized, approved way to access a large language model. If you do not currently have that, I would strongly encourage you to seek that out, get that approved, because if you don't have it, you literally will not be able to move forward with any of these. Very straightforward, but I can tell you right now, a lot of the barriers that we see with clients in terms of actually achieving something, they are literally boiling down to, oh, well, the risk team hasn't approved access to this model yet. In which case, doesn't matter how great your idea is, doesn't matter how excellent your principles are, if you don't have an approved model that you can access, you're not going to go anywhere. Again, with Dataiku, we can make it more palatable for those teams. So if the teams have previously rejected you, tell them, well, what about if we use Dataiku's LLM mesh? Does that make it more palatable to you? The answer will be yes. Approved access to relevant data sets. Again, Dataiku does not bring you magical data from nowhere. You bring your data to Dataiku, whether it be externally sourced or internally sourced. Again, we will make it so easy and secure for you, but you must have access to the relevant data sets. If you want to build a large language model that queries a knowledge bank of all of your internal support tickets for the last 10 years, you will need access to those support tickets. They don't have to be clean, they don't have to be great, but they have to exist somewhere. So again, before moving forward with the project, make sure that you have LLM access, the relevant data sets. You don't need any of the rest of it, though. Dataiku will handle that for you. Now, what use cases are we going to talk about? They are going to be boring. They are going to be effective. They are going to be real. They are not going to be experimental. They will not try to push large language models to their limit and beyond. Right? They will not have a high risk level whatsoever. They will be extremely low risk. And they will have actual measurable return on investment. Now, will that return on investment be high enough to be legitimate for you to invest in it today? That is an exercise for you to decide. Dataiku will make it trivially easy for you to experiment and try it out, and then if you like it, put it into production. If in the end, the ROI for you particularly and your firm isn't sufficient, great, don't worry about it. Try again in 6 months. But we will get you to a place where you can actually make a measurable decision based on that. So to be clear again, you're not going to see anything cutting edge here. You're not going to see anything that is talking about some magical capabilities that LLMs have only just barely begun to be able to do. You will instead see things that are actually in production already at clients of ours. Use LLMs to their current actual capabilities, have extremely low risk tolerance associated with them, and actually can give you measurable return on investment so you can decide if it was worth all that effort you put into it in the first place. Before we go further, we're going to have to talk about how any of this is actually going to be achieved. These are the principles that will have to be used in order for you to actually deploy any viable large language model GenAI capability. You will need to understand this concept. Human in the loop, human on the loop, human out of the loop. And you're going to see very momentarily how critical this is. You also might want to note that this is a particularly robust sourcing. These concepts are incredibly valuable, okay? Human out of the loop, fully autonomous, no human action is involved. This doesn't mean literally that a human will never even know what the model did, but it certainly means that the model can do whatever it wants, and at best, you're going to find out later what it did. So imagine this being something where you have an externally facing chatbot. You'll see why I use that in a moment. The externally facing chatbot receives a question directly from a client of yours. The client gets an answer directly from that chatbot. God knows what it just said. You don't find out what that chatbot said back to that person until the end of the day. or an hour later, or a minute later, or at the end of the month, or when your auditors come in and look at your logs, which, by the way, Dataiku will preserve perfectly for you. Human out of the loop, fully autonomous, is scary. It is not best practice, and you should not deploy anything that looks like the use cases I'm about to show you as fully autonomous systems. If you decide to do something fully autonomous, think very carefully. Why did you do it that way? Is the risk level so low that you are happy to just claw back whatever mistakes were made? There are instances in which that is absolutely legitimate and sensible. I'll show you one of them later on. But generally speaking, you're going to want one of these instead. Human in the loop, on the loop. Why is there a difference there? Very simple. Human in the loop means that the person is the only person who can actually take action. So again, think about the external chatbot. The external chatbot isn't external anymore. It's now an internal chatbot that talks to your CRM, your client support person. They then talk to the client who called in. Right? That is human in the loop. Right? The large language model never directly touches the client in any way. Human on the loop means that the human may abort or cancel the action. So here, you have a system in which the external chatbot's external again, but now, perhaps unbeknownst to the client, anytime they ask a question, the LLM generates a response, but before that response goes in front of the client, it is reviewed by a person. So a person is getting a stream of these messages coming in, the LLM saying, I want to say this, now I want to say this, now I want to say this. Every single time, the person is signing off on it before it goes out the door. Okay? Human in the loop, human on the loop. I imagine you are already thinking, oh gosh, there seem to be a lot of humans involved in these top two things. Yes, indeed, exactly. Get ready for how that is going to impact your productivity. So let's look at some actual, honest-to-God use cases that really exist and that you can do literally today in Dataiku if you have the two things I told you you needed. Approved data sets, approved LLM. Personalized marketing communication. Okay, you want to send custom marketing messages to all of your clients. Absolutely, but only appropriate with human in or on the loop. You must have every one of those messages approved. Why must you do this? Because if you do not, then you are simply sending out into the ether, into your clients' faces, a message which no human being reviewed. You are trusting that your systems reviewed it. Now again, if you're selling, I don't know, incredibly low-priced bags on the internet to people who you literally will only interact with once, and frankly, you don't even think that the product you're selling is very high quality, so it doesn't matter if they like you or are horribly offended by anything you did, yeah, sure, don't have a human in the loop. Automate the heck out of that. But if you're working in financial services and insurance, and you have not only incredibly valuable clients to work with, but also regulators who have extremely strong opinions about how you interact with those clients, you must have a person, at a minimum, sign off on those messages. This, of course, has impacts on how productive you can make yourself by using this, and that is fine and good and normal and the current state of the art. Client support chatbots, we just talked about this a lot. Again, you need human in the loop or at a minimum on the loop. Again, the standard de facto way it's currently done is entirely human in the loop, that the person is reviewing and it is the person that the client interacts with. Knowledge management. Again, you can have robust knowledge management in which you are gathering together large amounts of internal documentation, policies, procedures, and so on, and making them available to, let's say, managers who are managing large teams of people and need to answer specific questions in their day-to-day interactions. However, a person must be in the loop. That person must be able to look at the sources that LLM is pulling from, which again, are automatically provided by Dataiku answers process, and review and ensure that they indeed say what the LLM said that they said. And finally, document processing. Classic example where you actually can go fully autonomous. If you're processing a whole bunch of documents and you basically just need to extract some entities and so on from them, and your current hit rate is like 80%, and the 20% that you fail to properly process, you catch them at the end of the month anyway in an already existing auditable process. Everybody thinks that's fine. Great. Throw an LLM in there. You'll probably bump yourself up to 95 to 99% accuracy. You will still have mistakes, but you already have a robust process that's okay, that's considered acceptable. So you can go fully autonomous for that, although technically, at the end, a month later, a week later, whatever, somebody is reviewing in batch what actually happened. Or if they're higher risk and you need to make sure they're processed properly each time, put a human in the loop or on the loop. Again, every single thing you've seen here described with these constraints is already in production, uses existing LLM capabilities, is low risk, and will have a measurable, real ROI. And you can decide if it was worth the investment for you. Now, introduced you to a lot of kind of unfortunateness here about this whole human in the loop, on the loop thing. Very inefficient, very constraining. So let's talk about that, and let's talk about the fact that it isn't going away anytime soon. Okay, so here's a generic risk representation of this whole problem, okay? You're faced with a risk-reward trade-off. You're like, I really want to build an external chatbot that's fully autonomous. Why? Well, look at the massive reward in terms of efficiency savings. I could completely transform my entire call center and all the support ticket processing if I could have a fully autonomous external chatbot. And yeah, I'll review some stuff at the end. I'll have a crew around to do that. But I could save literally hundreds of millions of dollars, potentially, across a very large institution if I were to adopt this process. But you say to yourself, well, it's very high risk, though. So you stick a human on the loop in. Okay? You now have a system in which there is supposed to be, although again, systems can break, a human reviewing everything. You have reduced your risk, but oh no, my reward went down as well. Disappointing, disappointing. But the trade-off is still there. That's okay. I'll just draw my line. I'll just choose my point wherever is palatable for me. If I'm feeling adventurous today, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to choose this high risk, high reward. That's what all my peers are doing, right? All the big institutions, they're out there saving so much money, aren't they? They absolutely are not. They are not. Nobody is here. And the reason they're not here is because you can't be there. This is what the actual graph looks like. Your reward is your ROI. You're saving X in expenses. Great job, nicely done. This is your risk, total cost of failure. Total cost of failure can be represented in dollars. It can also be represented in you being fired. It can be represented in your entire institution having its license revoked. It can represent the decimation of your entire company's goodwill and presence in the market. That's what total cost of failure looks like. Your external chatbot's way over here. Your external chatbot, it doesn't matter how much reward it gives you. It doesn't matter if it will allow you to save $1 billion. Why? Because your total cost of failure is immense with your current external chatbot that's fully autonomous. So think about this next time. Think about why can't I just unlock all of this amazing savings? It's very likely that your answer is, oh, you're here. And it doesn't matter if the current reward from that is huge or bad. It doesn't even matter. You don't even need to do ROI because this is the problem. Now, you could say to yourself, oh, but well, where do I go? Oh, it's obvious. You go over here. Are you wanting to be at the bleeding edge of return on investment relative to reward? Are you an ambitious person who really wants to push the very limits of things? Okay, find yourself in this nice little triangle here, right? Where, yeah, you're taking significant risk, but it's palatable, and the reward is at least as good, if not better. Okay, great. So that might be your bot, but with a human on the loop, or it might not. Maybe it could even be human in the loop. More than likely, though, you're going to be here in the conservative frontier. Perfectly legitimate place to be. That's probably why institutions continue to survive. Hang out in here. Possibly very substantial ROI. Notice, there's no reason you can't have big ROI here, maybe, but more than likely you're going to be down here. This ROI is non-zero. It's potentially substantial. Remember, this could be $1 billion. So this down here could be 50 million. That's good money. The problem, though, is you need to get yourself into a space where you and your institution are comfortable working. And it's perfectly possible. These are all achievable today. You could build this today, but you're going to be way out here on the edge. I wouldn't recommend it. So what I would suggest to you is, as I said, all of these things are possible. You can build every single one of these today, and when you build them, as long as you adopt the appropriate human presence, which again will impact your ROI, you will have something that will work. It will be robust, it will be palatable, and it will actually deliver value. Now, again, you still have a bunch of expense going into this process. Have you revolutionarily transformed your entire operational system? You have not. But you have potentially unlocked 10, 50, $100 million of value over 1 to 3 years, in which case it could have been excellent work, and you should definitely do it today. As I said, all of this is with the tech as it actually exists today. This is not you trying to be the very edge of everybody's work. This is you doing what is already known and possible today. And I am very happy to agree that this chart could change tomorrow, but it won't. But maybe in 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, it could, absolutely. All that has to happen is for these chatbots to become way more effective. No, that's not correct. Even if the chatbot is 99.999% accurate, even if the chatbot is better by far than a human being, you still have a huge problem. You're still out here. Do you know why you're out here? The regulators don't agree with you. Regulatory process has already agreed that a certain amount of human failure with an appropriate training framework, risk management framework, and maker-checker framework is acceptable. And you try to stay inside of that box. There is no agreed framework for how badly wrong an external chatbot can be. Nobody has that answer yet. In a year or 2 or 3, there might very well be structured, formal answers to that question, in which case you will know exactly where you are, and this will actually move in here because total cost of failure is no longer the regulator saying, you did something that we have not approved. Instead, the regulator will say, oh, yeah, you built it the way we said you should. You seemed reasonable in thinking it would take this amount of risk, but something got messed up. That's a much nicer place to be. That's the normal place to be. That's standard operating procedure. So again, when you're looking at these use cases, when you're thinking about the models, yes, look out for the models to improve. Look out for your data to get better. Look out for ways in which you can make these more palatable to your internal stakeholders. But also, remember, you're always going to have this limitation in the coming days, in the coming months, of where the regulators will let you move, where your own auditors will let you move. And that's perfectly fine. Allow that to transform over time. Observe it as it moves in. And what will happen is the models will get better and the regulatory environment will become more concrete. And when that happens, you might very well find that that external chatbot is going to be bang in here or eventually in there. But that's not going to be today. It isn't today. And if it's in a year or 5 years, well, we'll find that out. Excellent. So thank you so much. At the end of this, we've got a mere moment left. I will now stop talking into your headphones, which is extremely strange. Happy to chat immediately after this if you'd like. I know you have another session to go to. And if you'd like, I can also answer an immediate question yelled out to me from the crowd, if anybody would like to do that. No? OK. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a delight.